Hello, everyone. This is Dominic Ventura again from Fourth Axis Design, and I also have with me today Chris Glazer from eLUXE3D Scanning Company. And today we're going to demonstrate how to make and rebuild a link on a bracelet. And Chris, if you'd like to say hi to everyone.
Yes. Hello, everybody. Yes, my name is Chris Glazer. I'm with eLUXE3D. I'm the Vice President of Sales and Marketing. And Dominic is going to be giving us a demonstration today on a project that he's been working on. I actually handle the sales and marketing for the company. We've got a couple of different systems that we sell. We have a DS3 Gold, actually, and a DS3 Silver. There's two DS3 Gold systems, one with a 120 millimeter field of view and one with a 50 millimeter field of view, as well as the DS3 Silver, which has a 100 millimeter field of view. The one that Dominic's been using for this particular project is the DS3 Silver. Over at eLUXE3D, we really are into providing systems with the ability to work with physical objects in a digital world. And I'll let you take it away here, Dominic.
Very good, Chris. Okay, so what this project is from a customer, Deidre Featherstone. Now, Deidre is a customer that I've had for just a short time, but she's actually using digital technology in order to um, capture and create new items from her analog world that she's been in for the past 20, 30 years. So Deidre is a fine jeweler herself. She's been designing for years, and this particular bracelet was made about 20 years ago for a customer, and they want to extend it. If you look in the lower left-hand corner of this upper picture, you can see the bracelet here. And now I'll go into the Rhino file and start describing what what we did with the bracelet. So this is the original image she sent me in the background. And right here I have the scanned links themselves and also an attempt to do this in Rhino, which we had discussed, Deidre and myself. What I'd like to show you is again, the original image. And we had to get this on the scanner, and she did not want to remove one of the links to do this. So what I did was I figured out a way of getting the link between putting the rest of the bracelet in the plastic bag and using a rubber band to anchor it to the table. I used some wax and I got the link in a couple of different positions. And this is in the middle of scanning. The lines you see on there are the projected lines from the projector that's picked up by the camera to give us the data we need to capture something in 3D. So we showed the process last time in our stone demo. So what I want to go over today is it's a two-step process. I did my preliminary work in Rhino and then brought it over to ZBRUSH. So we're going to go over to ZBRUSH at some point. So we started this out with a file and I tried to rebuild it. I built a basic block here that I used, and using a few cutters, I think there was only like 3 or 4 cutters in this, I was able to get the basic shape down. But when Deidre came over and we started discussing this, she said, well, can you just print the link as it is? And I said, well, I can close it up and print it, but then what? She said, well, I'll cut it out with a saw and do that. So I said, well, let's investigate this a little more, and we can possibly do this completely in ZBrush. So I'm going to go over the steps in here right now of how I started this. So I'm going to go over the ZBrush and show you about the patching process, but what I do want to show right now is the bracelet taken into Rhino and brought in a location at 000 where I had something that was defined, a location. So I try and bring the scans in, get them centered to the environment, and then that way I can start deconstructing or reconstructing as necessary. So I'm going to bring in some tools in here now. We have a sidewall cutters, which I'm going to bring in. I made these cutters in order to trim out the bracelet on the inside to get rid of all the internals that were there. Now, what we wanted to do was keep all the nuances of the original bracelet. So any wear marks, if you look in the corner here, even though we don't have data captured completely, we do have all the little idiosyncrasies on this bracelet based on wear and the weight of the bracelet falling on itself for 20 years. And this is what Deidre wanted to capture. So these are
That's really, excuse me, that's really one of the beauties of scanning is, you don't lose any of that interpretation of the original piece.
Correct, correct. So this was the original scan. What I'm going to show you next, let's hide the cutters, and I'm going to bring the cut mesh in now. So that's the raw mesh. We're going to bring the cut mesh in. Those are the cutters, and there's a cut mesh. So this is the mesh. Now, I had taken this and imported it back into, so this raw mesh here that you saw, the initial one, I brought it in for positioning, and then I exported it out as an OBJ into ZBrush, and I'll go into that process after I explain this part of it. And so that's the raw mesh. It was exported, cleaned up a little bit, and closed up, and then brought back into Rhino to do some what I call more precise work on it. So there's my cut mesh with the walls cut out. So I removed all the baguette bars out of there. Okay. And these are the baguette bars I put in. And I really didn't care how they looked. I just put a bunch of cylinders in, moved them around a little bit just to get a rough estimate. And if you look at the original scan as well with the cut mesh, I mean the raw mesh, I try to just get them in a relative position. There's actually the culet of the baguette here and over here. So I just spaced them out. And again, it was just a rough sketch to get positioning.
Very nice.
Yeah. The other thing I did with this as well was I also have a pave plate, which is made at a later date. And these plates can plug right into that empty space there. So if I go back in and take the bars out, you can see how that fits in there. And when you see what I did in ZBrush, you'll understand that I had to extend the edges on this for the baguettes. So I also put in these trimmers here. Now, I work between both programs with OBJs, and I don't worry about bringing all the tools in at once. So I was able to bring the link in, get it set up, patched up, and as I went along with the project, realized that I have to trim the original back in ZBrush. So I made these tools and these cutters, which then got imported into ZBrush, and again, that you'll see that demonstration further down. So that's the initial setup. So let me just take and put out all the parts. Let's go back in here. Let's get our raw mesh. So there's our raw mesh here. There's our cutters. Our bars are in there. And we also have our pave plate, which is made by, just basic, some simple geometry. Diamonds were laid out. If I go and turn my diamonds on, there are my diamonds and the azures. So these are the constituent parts that make up the beginning of the process. So I work in Rhino because it is a controlled environment in terms of dimensions and things, and I could be a little more precise with this. And then took these parts and just exported them either together or individually into ZBrush. And so what I like to do next is go into the ZBrush part, and I'd like to give you a demo on that side of what happened when I brought the geometry in. All right, Chris. So we're going to pick up on the other side here, and now this is the original link, raw in ZBrush. And what I did here was I actually patched and filled, and I'll go over that process a little bit for you. So in ZBrush, in geometry, you can go in and you can actually patch holes up. So the first thing I do is I go in here and I say, well, let's go to modify topology, and I'll say, let's close holes.
And the importance of that, Dominic, has mainly to do with the closing holes.
Well, ZBrush is set up to patch things and close holes up. So if there's any problems with with that, so right now you can see where that patched up, and
very good.
It took that and it patched up, and that's not great, but we really don't care because we can go in here and now we can start really fixing things the way we like to. So I try and start and patch a hole like that first. What I'll do is, okay, so now let's go in here and show you how I'll fix a hole. So that's a very, very deep hole there. So I'm going in here with the masking tool, and I'm going to mask out this one area right here. Okay, and just make sure I got the shading. Check the other side to make sure the mask hasn't gone through. Now I can make that as a polygroup, and you notice that's a polygroup now. I'm going to take that and hide it, and then in here I can say delete hidden, and then close hole. And I just patch that hole up. And if you go
Very
back to the
nice.
raw part, now I can go in here and I can just go in and smooth this all out and get rid of that hole like that. I'll do another one for you while I have you on the screen here. So let's pick another location. So this looks like a pretty funky location. So you'll notice that there's going to be a lot of it's going to be very angular and very rough patch, but again, we really don't care in this case. So let's actually do two. So let's go in here and mask out here. And these are the azures of the baguettes in there. Check the other side and make sure we haven't gone through on our masking. We'll mask this part out as well. Oops. See, that's very, very deep in there, so it's hard to pick up. So, but we're going to get rid of that very quickly. All right, so there's one. And let's go in number two right here. Now from here, we're just going to create a poly group again. All right, you can see the poly group there. And now it's all the same one because we did it at the same time. And now we'll take that, hide it, and we'll go into delete hidden and then close holes. And there we go. And now I can go again there, and I can just smooth out and just get it smooth. So that's a basic patching that you can do with this. So what I'll do now is go back and start showing you some other parts of this. So let's get rid of that one. This is the one that I patched up. Let's get this framed and back up a little bit on this. So there's a link patched up right
Oh,
there.
very good.
Okay, so and this is the final, well, almost the final, but this is the next version of this. Now this was imported back into ZBrush, I mean into Rhino, which you saw as the closed part. And then I use those cutters in there to cut this out. And what you'll see now is that cutout part. What you'll also see in here is where I made polygroups on this to help extend this out. So this is still, now I don't care about the edges and things, but this had a nicer edge on it before I extended it. But what I'm going to do now, based on the polygroup, I can isolate this out like this. All right. And if I go into the move tool here, I can go in and move this. And let's just move this up a little bit and bring everything back. And you see I just extended that and brought that up. If we
I
wanted,
see.
right, another way we can do it is we can actually do the same thing there. We can take this, and you can see it in real time. So if we take this and mask it out, oops, let's mask this out, bring everything back, invert the mask, and now we can go to move, and we can move it, and you can actually see it, kind of move in real time there, so we can move the part out. So these are some of the things that I did with this particular link to get to the point of where I have it extended so that I'm able to go back in now and give a little more metal to set with. Remember, I always add a little bit extra for them because, as they say, we have taking off tools, we don't have putting on tools. So it's a lot harder to do that. So I gave them a little extra metal to work with that they can take down to the level they want and then have the stones cut for each of the links. If I go to the next link here, you can see where I have the bars in there. So that's where I took the bars and I integrated them. These are still based on polygroups. So you can see my polygroups in the link itself. So if we needed to make changes on this and isolate it out for any reason, I can still do that with the links and get everything so I could bring them up separately. So polygroups in ZBrush is kind of a layering system. It's a little more sophisticated on some level, but it's kind of akin to that. But allows you to make changes on things without upsetting the other geometry in the meantime. So from there, I also have the original. Now this is the blank link. These are the cutters that I used to cut down that extra material I put on there. These are those patches, or the pave patches, I call them. So
Oh,
those are
very cool.
now those are just two different subtools. And those cutters now we're put in a position or to trim that back. And now we have in the end is that finished link. It's still polygrouped, but they're still separate. I mean, it's one volume, just polygrouped, so you can see the different parts of the piece with the azures and the holes in it. And then from there, I just go one step further and I go back and I remesh. So if you look at the mesh here, this was done as a Dynamesh, so it's pretty dense, and it's way too dense for export and things, but I do it for working purposes. And what you're seeing now is the Z-remesher that took the link and it remeshed it, and now it's a nice clean mesh with all the nuances of the original.
Which is really what you want. I mean, at the end of the day, you know, that's the scan's bringing it in 100% dimensionally accurate, so there's no more guesswork as far as measurements are concerned. Now it's just a matter of going in and doing the design side.
Right, right. Well, I guess the most important thing too for the customer was the fact that she really wanted all those nuances in there. And you know, if we made the link in Rhino, it would have been fine. But I think there would be more work for the jeweler, and there's a lot more decision making along the way. What I'd like to show you now is I don't have the finished bracelet with me, but I do have images to show, you know, the castings themselves. And it's probably a better way of doing it. So right here is the links themselves after they were printed and cast. And I'll just go through these images just to show you. I mean, to me, they're spot on. They were very, very pleased. And again, there's not much deviation from the original geometry. So what we try to do is keep all what we needed internal to the stones themselves. So there's the whole bracelet, and she actually attached the link at the clasp side, and you can see how that looks.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah. And then the nice part of this is the back part. If you look at the next picture, you can see how we really captured the nuances on the back as
Well,
far
it
as
looks like, I mean, it looks like an original link off the original bracelet.
correct, correct. Now, the reason why this started, by the way, is that she lost the models. She didn't have the models, and this is why we had to do this in the first place. So we will go back and remake this. We might make it in Rhino just to get a more accurate model going forward if she wants to reproduce this. So this was a dilemma that she had. And, you know, this really was customer driven. She understood enough of the technology sitting here to know how to apply it a little differently by saying, hey, I can just print that link and cut it out myself. So she kind of pushed me along to find another solution to do it. And I'm very happy she did because I'm very happy with the results, and so is she. So that kind of wraps up the demo there, Chris.
Yeah, very, very nice work.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, I think so too. I think it came out really, really great. So my name again is Dominic Ventura, Fourth Axis Design. You can reach me at Dominic at fourthaxisdesign.com. And Chris Glazer.
Yeah, yeah. You can also meet me in Las Vegas. We'll be there this next, actually this coming week, June 5th through the 8th. We're going to be at JCK Mandalay Bay, booth B as in boy, 61084. So we're looking forward to seeing everybody who wants to take a closer look at how 3D scanning can help their business. I appreciate the demonstration today, Dominic.
Same here, Chris. Will enjoy doing it, and I hope people, you know, take a look at this technology and realize that if you understand how to leverage the data, it can really be an extremely useful tool to, you know, problem solve. You know, the other thing you have to remember, Chris, as well, is that, you know, the only way of doing this would either, you know, take the link off, make a rubber mold, and shoot some waxes, and you know that's we don't have to do that anymore. We have a technology that allows us to really, again, manipulate analog data in a digital realm.
Yep. Yep. Well, great work. And like I said, we look forward to doing some more of these down the road.
All right, Chris. Thank you again. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.